The lowest acceptable gaming card in 2026, in my opinion, is the GTX 980 Ti, and this is for a few specific reasons. Reason number one is I think 4 gigs of VRAM is just not enough for gaming in 2026. Now, this obviously depends on what it is that you want to be playing. If you're going to just play esports, that could be enough. But if you want to delve into some AA and AAA gaming, 6 gigs of VRAM is going to be necessary, and even that is very little. But this video is all about the lowest price point for entry-level gaming performance in HD for, just gaming in 2026 at a frame rate that is not going to be 30 FPS in, let's say 90% of games. The GTX 980 Ti was a flagship card when it came out. It was a very, very, very good performant card. And, about 10 years ago, it was one of the best cards you could buy. But, 10 years have passed. But it's incredible that even now you can pick up that card and still game with it. So today I'm going to look at a few games that you can still play with it. Some esports, some AA, some AAA. And these games are popular games in, last year, this year, 2024. And this just proves that you don't need to break the bank to be able to play games. And another reason to pick up this card, of course, other than the VRAM, is of course the specs of the card. Now, it doesn't have ray tracing. It is very old. Ray tracing wasn't really a commercial thing back then. So you do have to be cognizant of the fact that you're not going to be able to play games that require ray tracing. It doesn't really, natively support any of the DLSS or any of the upscaling technologies, though there are ways to make them work. And apart from that, it still has good specs in terms of raw performance. There are still many games at raw settings at HD that you can still play at good frame rates. Lastly, before I get to actually seeing the results, the price. I saw one of these cards yesterday for 1,500 Rand, which is right around $80. Now, I know, in America, the cards are a bit cheaper than they are here in terms of the secondhand cards. But 1,500 Rand for a gaming graphics card that can actually play games is extremely low. To give you an example, another card that sells for that much is a RX 470 4GB, which doesn't come close to the 980 Ti in terms of performance. Of course, if you're lucky, you could get maybe a 580 8GB maybe for that price. You'll be hard pressed to get one, but I have seen them go for, let's say, 2,000 Rand. So for not much more, you could get a more recent card. But if you're looking at strictly under $100, even under $80, I think it's actually about $75. So $75 for performant HD gameplay is, it's a very good deal in today's age. That's enough talking about it. Let's take a look at the results. Thank you to Random Gaming for the video that I'm using to check the results. And jumping in with Counter-Strike 2 at 1080p, high preset, 4 times anti-aliasing, MSAA, and we are looking at an average of 171.4 FPS, a low of 1% low of 134, so it's going to feel quite smooth there, and a 0.1% low of 122. So it's going to be a very smooth experience, even a high refresh rate experience. And this is, of course, a game that came out a couple of years ago. So it's a recent game. It is, of course, the esports game, but still, it looks quite good, and this card handles it perfectly. Moving on here to another very popular game that you're probably going to want to play if you have this card is GTA 5. This is the enhanced version, which is just a bit better in terms of performance. 109 FPS average. This is high preset, TAA enabled. At 1080p. So far it's been high graphics, but this is an older game. It came out not long after the card was released. Actually, it came out before the card was released, and and the Counter-Strike came out, it came out way later, but it's not a difficult game to run. Helldivers 2, low preset but high textures, and that's where that 6 gigs of VRAM comes in. At 1080p with AA on, an average of 77, 1% low of 69. So, not a bad result, above 60 FPS gameplay. And when you're spending $75, 1,500 Rand on a graphics card, to be able to play something that the PS4 can't run, it's you can't really complain, because you could build a computer for 4,000 Rand, for $300, and you could do better than PS4 and not far off a PS5. So it's interesting to think about it that way. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, 1080p, low preset, high textures again. SMAA 2TX, so 70 FPS average, 59.8 FPS on the 1% lows. So again, a relatively smooth frame time there, and you can't complain. I mean, okay, look, you're not going to be able to play the newest AA games like these or AAA games at high refresh rate, but you can play them at 60 FPS. So if you're happy with doing that, and if you're going to be using a card like this, you're probably not going to have the most expensive monitor anyway. And if you have a 60 hertz monitor, this card is going to be well suited to it. If you care about screen tearing, VSync enabled gameplay. So it's a good result. Baldur's Gate 3, 1080p, medium preset, TAA, average of 69.9, and what was that? 1% low of 49.5. So again, good result. Can't really complain. Very playable. New game, AAA game, above 60 FPS. Another new game, Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, 1080p, low preset. This one is the first one to make use of some upscaling. So this is where the card starts to show its age. And this is a recent game. I think it came out last year. But that doesn't mean it's unplayable. We're looking at 49 FPS average with a 1% low of 36.8. So you might feel some sluggishness there. But it's 1080p, it's a very new game. Okay, you are going to have to use 50% upscaling there, so it's not going to look amazing, but it's still playable. I wouldn't play it like this, but it is playable. Moving on to Marvel Rivals, AAA esports game, very recent, low preset, TSR balanced, AA medium, so medium anti-aliasing there. Making use of upscaling, of course. Average frame rate of 75.9, 1% low of 59.6. Interesting results. It doesn't look bad, and very playable. It's not exactly a high refresh rate, but again, if that target is 60 FPS, you're definitely going to reach it. Red Dead Redemption 2. This will be interesting because this game came out not too long after this card was released, so this would be sort of like a good benchmark for it, because it's one of the first AAA games after the card was released that's sort of known as at that time performance hungry game. So Red Dead Redemption 2, 1080p, ultra textures, everything else medium, geography and grass LODs at max. LODs are basically the low resolution models that you see in the distance, like when trees pop in. Those are the full resolution models being rendered, and the low resolution models being disabled. Developers make use of LOD to save on computing power and to handle FPS, things like frame time. Average frame rate here of 58.8, 1% low of 48.7, 0.1 of 46.2. So this is going to feel quite nice to play. And of course, with ultra textures, everything else at medium, it's going to look quite nice. So again, 60 FPS target, very playable. take a look at Cyberpunk here, 1080p, low preset, medium textures, high crowds, FSR 3 quality, average of 63 and low of 48.8. So this is another one where the game is maybe a bit too new for the card, but that doesn't mean you can't play it, right? Because again, it is over 60. It's not going to look amazing because of the upscaling, but you can still play the newest games. And I think that's what makes this card interesting. While you're not going to be able to max out recent games, that doesn't mean that you can't play them, right? You can still play them, you can still have fun, and if you're the kind of gamer that, you know, firstly doesn't have a big budget, which who has a big budget these days? You know, we're all budget oriented these days. Something like this shouldn't be overlooked necessarily. Now, of course, if you can stretch for a 1080 Ti, that's going to be so much better, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about the lowest possible gaming card for, you know, at least an average experience in 2026, and this card is my pick, at least from Nvidia, right? If you like the video, I can do one from Intel, I can do one from AMD, but if you're looking at Nvidia cards, and I think this would be the overall winner as well, unless you can get a 580 8GB at the same price, which it's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult, I would say this would be my pick. So, you know, take a look at your, I don't recommend Facebook Marketplace just for safety reasons, but take a look at your local forums, at your local shops, and see if you can't find anything like this. That's something that I really like about South Africa, is there are so many secondhand shops and, you know, old electronic shops, and we have forums like Carbonite where people sell old graphics cards and old computer components, and so, you know, it's quite a fun thing to be a part of that community and to trade computer parts. And if you can find something like this, you know, I'm not saying don't look at Facebook, I'm just saying be mindful, be careful. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but here it is quite dangerous. So be mindful of that. But if you can find one, pick it up and, you know, ignore the noise and just enjoy gaming, because that's what it's all about. This card is still very capable, and you'll find yourself, I would recommend a 60 Hz screen for it, but 1080p 60 Hz screen, you're still going to have a great time. So this is my pick for the lowest card for gaming in terms of budget and performance, that is still acceptable in 2026. Do you agree? Do you think there's another card from Nvidia that I should have looked at? Maybe a 1650? I'm not sure if that's going to compare well to this. I've got a laptop 1650 that plays games, but you know, it's not, I'm not sure it's going to reach this card in terms of performance. Maybe you could find a 1660 for around the same prices. In South Africa, those are still the same price as the 580. So that's why I think this is my pick. Let me know what you think, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.